Good morning. I'm sure that all of you have heard of the UN report on climate change and how we need to reduce our emissions as soon as possible, if not today. You've also seen the disasters around the world, the forest fires everywhere. You've also seen floods and insect plagues that have killed many people. Not only that, but people have lost their homes and their livelihoods. It's a disaster. So the question is, are we going to win this war? Are we going to reduce our emissions enough to change the climate change or to stop it getting worse? Well, the stark answer to that is no, we're not going to do it. Climate change has developed a life of its own. The forest fires themselves are pouring hundreds, millions of tons of carbon into the atmosphere, which of course makes things worse. The fire in Yakutsk in Siberia is also melting the tundra, which is releasing methane. And methane is a far worse greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. Now, some countries might reduce their emissions, probably will, but other countries like China, India, and Australia, they rely on coal for their economies. China has suggested that their emissions will grow until 2030. We are not going to win the war on climate change. It's too late. So we can either sit back and say, just watch the earth destroy itself, or we can pray for the kingdom to come. Now, is that a realistic solution? Now, there's a lot of confusion as to what God's kingdom is, and some commentators say it's the kingdom of Christians on this earth at the moment who have the Christ in their hearts. Well, that doesn't seem to fit with a couple of verses. I don't want to go into this too much, but just have a quick look at Luke 21:31, where Jesus said, when you see these things occurring, that's all the disasters and everything else, know that the kingdom of God is near. In other words, the kingdom hasn't come yet. And if we look at Daniel 2:44, it says that in the time of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And this kingdom will not pass into the hands of another race. It will shatter and absorb all the previous kingdoms and itself last forever. Now, when Jesus was on earth, his the theme of his preaching was the kingdom, the good news of the kingdom. And I like to think of it as a sort of party political broadcast. Now, you can take issue with that if you want, but what Jesus did was show us what, as king of the kingdom, he would do for this planet. He cured the sick, he raised the dead, he fed the hungry, so there'll be no more sickness, no more death, no more poverty. And more pertinent to what we're talking about this morning, Jesus was able to calm storms. Now, is that a step too far? Can Jesus reverse climate change? Of course he can. We mustn't limit Jesus' power and say, oh, I don't think he can solve our problems. Of course he can. So all of you who have God's kingdom at heart, I'd be most grateful if you would earnestly pray for God's kingdom to come, to prevent further loss of life from these catastrophes, prevent more animal species going extinct. Now, I'm going to leave you with a small clip from my garden about everyday miracles, just an attempt to raise our faith in what Jesus and God can do. But thank you so much for watching this morning. So every day I see miracles in this garden. If someone asked you to make a bee from scratch, this little furry creature that is too heavy to fly and yet does fly and pollinates all our crops for us, we would be hard pushed to make something like that. Then each year I plant a few seeds and something comes up. I've neglected the garden this year. But even so, I've still got quite a bit to eat. We take these things for granted, planting seeds, and they grow with a little drop of water, and we don't look at that miracle. The fennel is behind you. The fennel and the parsley have both gone to seed. Thousands of little seeds, each one capable of growing a new plant. So, just something to think of.